Can I have your attention, please? We're going live. Okay, I now declare the May 2026 Council meeting open at 6:30 p.m. and welcome all those in attendance. I now invite Councillor Green to read the Acknowledgement of Country.
The City of Melville acknowledges the Bibbulmun people as the traditional custodians of the land on which the city stands today and pays its respects to the Whadjuk people and elders past, present and future.
Thank you very much, Councillor Green. I draw your attention to the disclaimer on the screen. The affirmation of civic duty and responsibility on the screen. The advice of audio-visual live streaming and recording on the screen. Okay, to assist me with smooth running of our meeting, if you plan on asking a question during public question time and you haven't already submitted the question to us in writing, it would be appreciated if you could complete a question time form found on the table to your left and hand it to an officer prior to the commencement of public question time. So we have item 2, attendance and apologies. We have no elected members coming online. And we have Councillor Ross on leave of absence. Item 3, declarations by members. We now move on to declarations by members. Are there any declarations by members who have not read and given due consideration to all matters contained in the business papers presented before the meeting? I take it that's nil. Declarations by members who have received and not read the elected members' bulletin. I take it that's nil. Announcements by the presiding member without discussion. No deputations or written submissions have been received for this evening. Item 5, disclosure of interest. Can the Head of Governance please advise if there are any disclosures of interest for this evening? Ms Newman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, no disclosures have been received for this evening.
Are there any disclosures from elected members? Okay, if there's no disclosures, we will move on to public question time. Item 6, public question time. I now open public question time at 6:33. We have a number of questions which have been received with notice this evening. If we have a question asker here in the meeting or have a representative to ask the question, could you please make your way to the microphone to ask your question when called? If there is no one in the audience to ask the question and the question is not taken on notice, the question and response will be provided in the minutes which will be available to the public on Friday the 22nd of May. We have Mr B Patterson of Palmyra, Mr M McCleary of Bigton, Mr J Miotti of Bull Creek, Miss E Cole of Melville, Miss E Ashby of Melville on behalf of Melville Lakers Netball Club, Miss K Ribbig of Mount Pleasant and Mr D Morley of Willagee. All right, so we'll start with Mr B Patterson of Palmyra. Please come forward to the lectern and make sure you turn it on. You have 2 minutes to ask your question. Thank you. All right, is Mr Patterson here? If Mr Patterson is not here, we will go to Mr McCleary of Bigton. Is Mr McCleary of Bigton here? If he is not here, Mr J Miotti of Bull Creek, please come forward. Again, 2 minutes, a maximum of 2 minutes to ask your questions.
Thank you. Can I just correct the record? I actually live in Leeming and have done for 6 years. I don't know where the Bull Creek bit came from, but...
Thank you. We'll correct that.
Thank you. Now, I did submit these questions, or 2 of these questions last week, but it was too late and not on the agenda. So there's those 2 and then an additional one. Bear with me, please. First one is, my understanding the Local Government Act of 1995 and associated provisions within the Local Government Rules of Conduct Regulations 2007 require all members of council interest where a reasonable person would expect that interest may affect the member's impartiality in decision making. That being the case, can Councillor Spanbrook and Mayor
I will ask you not to ask us to explain anything to you publicly, because we don't do that at council meetings. But if you wish to have a private discussion with us, you're very welcome to do so. So question 1, I will rule out. Thank you. And question 2, you have another question?
I haven't. I think I'm going to go down the same path somehow. Ratepayers have been delivered an over 14% rate increase since November 2023 by the current administration after the recommendation to increase rates by 5% went ahead last week. In the 4 years before that, 4.6% in total. Taking the local government cost index, LGCI, into account, the total increase was 14.46% in the 4 years before November 2023. The 3 years since, 12.6%. The city was financially managed prior to 2023, such that rates only increased 4.6%, an average of 1.2% per annum, despite LGCI increases of 14.6%, shielding ratepayers of 10%, which is an average of 2.5% of those increases. Since then, rates have outpaced the LGIC by over 1.5%, an 11.5% turnaround in 3 years. Question 1A is this the good financial management that so many current recent councillors elected campaigned on? And B, how can the city afford an unplanned and unbudgeted $4.7 million cricket pitch to add to the 12 already in the city where there is no dedicated netball or basketball facilities?
Ms Bowman, CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Miotti, for your questions. As these questions were received without notice, in accordance with the Melville Local Government Meeting Procedures local law, we will need to take these on notice, and a response will be provided in the agenda for the ordinary meeting of council to be held in June. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And my final question is, I note from the agenda briefing forum last week that the survey and report that identified asbestos issues at the Adderdale Scout and Guide Halls was prepared in June 2021. However, that report doesn't appear to have been forwarded to the Guides and Scouts until June 2025, at which time the decision to demolish seems to have already been decided. My question 1A is, can officers advise what efforts were undertaken to seek remediation of the identified issues, such as costings, in the intervening 4 years? And B, if it was identified some time ago that demolition was the likely outcome, what efforts were undertaken to seek funding, including from the Scouts and Guides, so that a staged renewal of the buildings could have been considered?
Thank you. Mr Coton, Director Environment and Infrastructure.
I believe we'll take those questions on notice. Thank you.
And just finally, I did ask some questions at the last meeting that were going to be put on notice to be answered. Have they been answered? Are they in the minutes of this meeting?
Ms Newman, Head of Governance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, Mr Miotti, I believe those questions have been responded to in the agenda for this meeting.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms E. Cole of Melville.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. I'd like to ask about the Reconciliation Action Plan, please, which states that First Nation voices should...
Excuse me, can you just move the microphone down so we can hear you more clearly?
Is that better?
Much better, thank you.
Sorry. I'd like to ask about the Reconciliation Action Plan, which states that First Nation voices should influence decision-making and that the city must be accountable to what the community says. In the John Connell business case, consultation with traditional owners regarding the removal of remnant bushland was acknowledged, along with the fact that the reference group did not support the final outcome as voted by elected members. How does the city and the elected members reconcile proceedings with an outcome opposed by the consulted reference group with its commitments under the Reconciliation Plan? What mechanisms exist to ensure consultation outcomes meaningfully influence decisions by elected members? And under what circumstances would consultation feedback from traditional owners lead the city and the elected members to alter or reconsider a project outcome? Thank you.
Ms Pickering, Director Community Development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your questions, Ms Cole. I'll answer each one individually. So the first question, prior to the preparation of the business case and as part of the John Connell Reserve Master Plan process in late 2023, the Whadjuk Noongar Reference Group was advised of the June 22 Council resolution authorising the Leeming Spartans Cricket Club to apply for a native vegetation clearing permit. Excuse me. Officers also advised that the views of the reference group should be considered by the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation as part of its statutory decision-making process. The views of the reference group were clearly articulated within both the council item and the business case so that elected members could consider cultural, environmental and reconciliation impacts alongside the broader strategic, financial and operational factors. Within the business case, the potential risk to reconciliation efforts was identified. While Council ultimately resolved to proceed with the project, the City acknowledges that this outcome did not align with the position of the reference group. In keeping with the commitments of the Reconciliation Action Plan, the City will continue to work with the First Nations stakeholders to mitigate impacts and strengthen cultural outcomes. And this includes exploring cultural land management opportunities within John Connell Reserve and Kenhurst Park, enhancing edge interface protection and embedding cultural design principles into future planning and implementation. In terms of question 2, which was about the mechanisms to ensure consultation outcomes meaningfully influence decisions by elected members, the Council Stakeholder Engagement Policy, CP002, provides the framework to ensure that the City of Melville residents and relevant stakeholders have a fair and meaningful opportunity to contribute to problem solving, planning and council decision making. The City applies the International Association of Public Participation, commonly known as IAP2, spectrum to clearly communicate the intent of each engagement process and the level of potential public influence. Depending on the project, this influence may range from informing through to empowerment. And different components of a single project may sit at different points of the spectrum. All community and stakeholder feedback is formally captured, analysed and presented to elected members in a structured and transparent manner when Council is the decision maker. This ensures that consultation outcomes meaningfully inform deliberations, even though Council must also consider statutory obligations, strategic priorities and broader community impacts. Thank you. Mechanisms that support this include engagement summary reports, tabled submission reports and engagement snapshots that document themes, issues and levels of support or concern. The inclusion of engagement findings within council reports, business cases and officer recommendations to ensure feedback is visible and considered in context, and agenda briefings and elected member engagement sessions where officers present consultation outcomes, answer questions and provide additional detail to support informed decision making. These mechanisms ensure that consultation outcomes are not only heard but meaningfully influence the information and advice presented to elected members as part of their decision-making responsibilities. And finally, in terms of circumstances when consultation feedback from traditional owners lead the City and the elected members to alter or reconsider a project outcome, there are various statutory and legislative requirements that embed consultation with traditional owners, including in the Local Government Act 1995, which notes the general function of local government must be performed having regard to the need to recognise the particular interests of Aboriginal people and to involve Aboriginal people in decision-making processes. Consultation is also embedded into the Aboriginal Heritage Act 1972. Under Section 18 of this Act, the City is obligated to undertake consultation with traditional owners when works are undertaken to registered Aboriginal sites. In these contexts, advice provided by traditional custodians is required to influence decision-making. Council and the City of Melville administration also consider advice from traditional custodians and other First Nations community members in various other contexts, including decision-making regarding the City's Stretch Reconciliation Action Plan. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And now we have Miss C. Ashby of Melville on behalf of the Melville Lakers Netball Club. Please come forward. Pardon?
I believe she withdrew her question today.
Oh, she did. Okay, thank you very much. Miss Kay Ribbink of Mount Pleasant.
Yeah. Good evening, councillors and Madam Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to ask some questions tonight. My first question is, what communication strategies and/or outreach efforts did the City of Melville undertake to advise residents and ratepayers of Leeming and Bull Creek in particular, as well as City of Melville in general, of the period of submission in relation to the clearing permit applied for by Leeming Spartan Cricket Club on behalf of City of Melville?
Ms Pickering, Director Community Development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, thank you for your question. The clearing permit was lodged by the Leeming Spartans Cricket Club and assessed through the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation statutory clearing permit process. As the application was not submitted by the City, all public advertising notification and invitation for submissions were administered solely by the Department in accordance with state requirements. While the City was not responsible for promoting the submission period, information regarding the public submission process was made available on the City of Melville website.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yes, what is your follow-up question?
So in which case, if this is to do with the Leeming Spartan Cricket Club, how can the city be responsible for the financial commitment required to fulfil the conditions of the clearing permit?
Ms Pickering?
I think I'll take that on notice. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, thank you.
I have a second question.
Yes.
DEWA's assessment states that the bushland approved for clearing under CPS 10237/1 is necessary to protect the nearby Banksia woodlands threatened ecological community. Why is Council choosing to remove vegetation that currently shields this endangered ecosystem from weeds, heat, drying, human pressure, and further fragmentation? Knowing that these protective buffers are lost, the remaining woodland is likely to enter long-term ecological decline, even if the core patch remains. And further to that, what budget has Council allocated or expects to allocate in future to mitigate the impacts of this clearing and protect the immediate adjacent threatened ecological community?
Ms Pickering, Director Community Development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you again for your next two questions. The City acknowledges these concerns and is committed to actively manage the area following completion of the field extension works to support and maintain the long-term health of the surrounding environment. And following completion of the field extension works, the City will undertake a review of the site and, where required, adjust future maintenance budget allocations to ensure the ongoing protection of the surrounding areas. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
We now have Mr D Morley of Willagee.
Well, good evening, everyone. Lovely to be here. And hello, everybody watching on this live stream. My question goes to the issue with the proposed clearing of the native bushland at John Collin Reserve. And it's a procedural one. In the event that the petition opposing the proposed clearing of the approximately 209 mature native trees and up to 0.68 hectares of remnant bushland at John Collin Reserve achieves the required number of signatures and the Melville City Council subsequently grants the request for a special meeting of electors, what procedural steps would then be required for Council to reverse its previous decision approving the clearing of this native bushland? And secondly, if a special meeting of electors passes a motion calling for the decision to be reversed, what obligations does Council have to consider or act on that motion, and within what time frame? And thirdly, if the clearing approval has already been submitted to or granted by the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, or the EPA for that matter, what additional procedural steps would be required to halt or withdraw that application?
Ms Bowman, CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Morley, for your questions. As these questions were received without notice, in accordance with our meeting procedures local law, we will need to take them on notice and provide a response in the agenda for the ordinary meeting of council to be held in June. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and my apologies for the late submission.
Thank you, Mr Morley. Are there any further questions from those in attendance? If there are no further questions, I will then close question time at 6:52 p.m. Item 7, awards and presentations. I would like to invite Mr Quentin Wilson from the Melville Community Men's Shed to the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Quentin Wilson and I'm Chair of the Melville Community Men's Shed. I just wanted to bring the Council up to speed with what we're up to within that Community Men's Shed. It happens to be National Volunteer Week this week, and it coincides with the United Nations declaring 2026 the International Year of Volunteers for a Sustainable Development Future. The shed members who step up and give a little more of their time and take on roles of administration and supervision feel that they, through their volunteering, are contributing to a sustainable future. They're sustaining individuals by making them feel valued and part of a community, and they're sustaining the planet by repairing and recycling valuable resources. Volunteering can be a balancing act, though, between enthusiasm and exhaustion. I'm also here this evening to say thank you to the City of Melville for your ongoing support of your Community Men's Shed. As you're aware, we are now operating in our upgraded facilities, thanks very much to the work of the City. These facilities include compliant toilets, a new lunchroom and kitchen area, a lift, upgraded office space, upgraded meeting room space, and a new dust extraction plant room. Further maintenance work has recently been undertaken to repair the leak in our roof. The focus of our members continues to evolve. Apart from offering the traditional activities of woodwork and metalwork, we have groups who are active in the areas of electronics, 3D printing, music, mahjong, line dancing, yoga and ping pong. We also have a community outreach group that works with local nursing homes. Our members are a very diverse bunch. We recognise the support offered to us by the Council in the form of reduced rent. We are a not-for-profit self-funded volunteer organisation with a turnover of approximately $60,000 a year. We charge an annual membership of $150, which raises about $15,000. In addition to this, we hold 4 Bunnings sausage sizzles a year, and each of these nets about $2,500. We continuously quote jobs to repair or manufacture items for schools, universities, businesses and the public. In addition, members make toys and gifts for sale at the 2 Perth Makers Markets at Heathcote, one at Easter and one at Christmas. These additional activities bring in a further $25,000 a year. Like a lot of non-profit organisations, we, together with ChatGPT, are continuously writing grant applications. These probably return us about 5 cents in the dollar, and they net us about $5,000 in a good year. Our main expenses include insurance, utilities, equipment maintenance, the repair of tools and equipment, and of course, tea and coffee and biscuits. Our management committee, which is elected at the AGM each year, meets monthly to review the shed operations and to plan for the future. Our challenges are ongoing. Bruce Wright, who a lot of you might know, who's been our admin manager for the past 4 years, would like to retire from that position. He currently sits at that desk welcoming visitors and potential members from 9 to 3, Monday to Friday. We're proposing to replace him with 10 people, with members volunteering to front the office on a morning or afternoon roster basis for the 5 days that we're open. We regularly joke with him that we could offer him twice the money, but he's worked out that 2 times nothing is nothing. We received a grant last year from the state government for $50,000 to install a centralised dust extraction system, and we're in the process of appointing a contractor to carry out those works. This system will make a big difference to the air quality within the ground floor of the building. Next month, at the invitation of the C.Y. O'Connor Men's Shed, and taking advantage of cheap seniors travel tickets, we're undertaking a 3-day field trip to Kalgoorlie. We hold monthly barbecues and the occasional pub lunch, but an outing of this type will be a first. We've now been open for 4 years and we have 180 members, both men and women. We believe that we are making a difference to people's lives, that we are improving the health and well-being of members in accordance with the fundamental aims of the Men's Shed organisation, and that we're bringing and building a sustainable future through volunteering. I'd just like to say thank you very much for your ongoing support. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mr Wilson. We don't get too many people coming here to thank us, so we are very appreciative of your thought in doing that. Item 8, applications for new leave of absence. I've submitted requests for leave of absence for 4 weeks in June and July. Are there any further requests for leaves of absence?
Madam Mayor, I just want to make sure that my leave of absence was recorded for May and June.
Yes, it will be confirmed outside the meeting. I understand it was done. So are there any further requests? If there are no further requests, can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Wheatland. Seconded, Councillor Hong. Is there anyone against? I declare it carried. Item 9, confirmation of minutes. 9.1, ordinary meeting of the Council, 21st of April. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Green, seconded Councillor Lim. Is there anyone against? I declare it carried. 9.2, meeting of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, 11th of May. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? A mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Green. Seconded, Councillor Spanbrook. Is there anyone against? I declare it carried. 9.3, special meeting of Council, 12th of May. Can I have a mover and seconder? Thank you, Councillor Woodall. Seconded, Councillor York. Anyone against? I declare it carried. 9.4, notes of agenda briefing forum. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Green. Seconded, Councillor York. Is there anyone against? If there's no one against, I declare it carried. Item 10, new business of an urgent nature. There is no new business of an urgent nature. 11, identification of matters for which meeting may be closed. There are no items or attachments that have been identified as confidential for this evening. Item 12, petitions. No petitions have been received for this evening. Item 13, adoption of recommendations en bloc. We now move to en bloc items for this evening. The following items have been recommended to be carried en bloc. M2677 Common Seal, April 26. C26377 Investment Statements for March 2026. C26378 Schedule of Accounts paid for March 2026. UP26111 Review of the Burragoon Melville City Centre Structure Plan, RFQ, Gate 1, Scope Endorsement. Last item, UP26110 Proposed Amendment to Local Planning Scheme 6 to rezone Lot 40 Davis Crescent, Cardinia from Residential 40 to Residential 60. Can I have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Robbins. Seconded, Councillor McGoldrick. Is there anyone against? If there is no one against, I declare it carried. Moving on to reports. Now, I have a question for elected members. I understand there's a number of people in the audience for the motion with notice. Would that be the case? Can you indicate with your hands, raising your hands, if you're here for the motion about trees? Okay, not too many. Oh, quite a few. Okay, I just wanted to get an indication that there were a number of you. So I'm going to request the council if you would do something unusual tonight and consider the motion with notice for the benefit of our gallery. Councillor Wheatland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also want to alert you that there are members of the Scouts here as well.
Okay, well, we have two items that need to come forward. Perhaps we'll do the Scout item first, and would the council be happy if we do the Scouts first, because it's on the reports, the officer reports, and the motion with notice second, which is a little unusual. We don't normally do it, but we don't generally have a gallery of people waiting for it either. So let's do that then. Thank you very much for bringing that to my attention, Councillor Wheatland, and we'll now move on to the item page 17, I believe it's the same on your computer, I'm not sure. E2690, approval to demolish the Atterdale Scout and Baden-Powell Girl Guide facilities. Has everybody found that? And we do have the alternative motion with notice by Councillor Panayiotou. He has given us due notice, so it does take precedence over the officer's recommendation.
Madam Mayor, may I make a request? Given the Atterdale Scout Hall and the Baden-Powell facility are on different sites and different users and considerations, are we able, well, may I respectfully ask that we request that these motions are put to a vote separately?
Yes, we can do that. So am I to understand, Councillor Panayiotou, you want to vote on item 1 separately, item 2 separately, and item 3 separately? Would I be correct in understanding that?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, we can do that. I need a mover and seconder for the motion. Councillor Panayiotou, you'll be the mover. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Green, thank you. Okay, Councillor Panayiotou, please proceed with your debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that this is an important issue for the Scouts, parents, local community, and of course the City of Melville. My focus tonight is not to dismiss the engineering concerns identified with the report, but to ensure that Council properly considers whether a practical retention and roof replacement options should be assessed before proceeding directly to demolition. 3 engineering reports have now been provided to elected members. While the reports identify issues associated primarily with the roof structure, none recommend demolition of the building. Importantly, the reports identify remediation and roof replacement and a pathway for continued use of the facility. The facility also represents a valued community asset supporting local youth and broader community activities. The masonry structure and existing services were also generally identified as being in good condition. One of the engineering reports also includes an indicative remediation costing associated with the proposed roof replacement works. As one of the local residents commented recently, and this is, I quote from this resident, "You don't demolish your house if you have a leaking roof." Apologies, it's just a quote. Given the demolition is irreversible, I believe Council should properly assess these options before proceeding directly to demolition.
Thank you very much, Councillor Panayiotou. Councillor Green, do you wish to speak now or later?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll speak now. Firstly, I agree with Councillor Panayiotou, whose address just now was focused on the Atterdale Scout Hall. I'm in support of retaining that Scout Hall. What I will speak about is the Baden-Powell Girl Guide facility. In this, I'm supportive also of the motion. Are we speaking about this now, by the way?
Yes, it is all part of the motion.
It's all part of the motion and
Unless you wish to discuss
voted
everything
separately.
separately. Does the council want to speak separately on every number? I understood that you would be speaking on the whole item, but we would vote separately.
Yeah, I'll focus on the I'll focus on Baden-Powell Whalen Bay Scouts, but I am in support of what Councillor Panayiotou said regarding Attadale. So I'll go into what I was going to say. Safety of surrounding residents and those using a facility under the city's duty of care should be our #1 priority. It certainly ranks higher than revenue raising. The city has a responsibility to manage asbestos and reduce exposure when possible. This includes reducing the overall quantity contained in our buildings so that over time the risk is reduced. What the city is proposing for the guide hall at Baden-Powell Reserve is safe practice through proactive preventative maintenance. For asbestos to be removed safely, it needs to be done while it's still intact. Exposure to friable asbestos should be kept to an absolute minimum. Waiting until it becomes damaged or friable poses an unnecessary and serious safety risk for those undertaking the work and for surrounding residents. It therefore stands to reason that demolitions come down to a question of timing. For the guide hall, there will not be a safer and better time to demolish than right now. The city has taken more than reasonable steps to inform Scouts of their intentions. Scouts WA were first informed of the intended demolition, I believe, in 2021. The miscommunication between Scouts WA and the Scout group was unfortunate, but not the city's responsibility. But having heard of it, the city has done what they can to keep all parties informed of their intentions. As of February, we've heard that the lease for use of the guide hall has expired. The building has been vacated and is no longer approved for use. Whalen Bay Scout Group still has access to Baden-Powell Reserve, which still has a fully functioning scout hall and a lovely outside area for scouting activities, including plenty of trees. It also retains what must be one of the premier scout locations in the Perth Metro on the Whalen Bay shoreline in Applecross, below Heathcote. The club rents this out for revenue raising, in addition to its use by Scouts. You might recall that at last week's agenda briefing forum, it was explained to us that a lot of the groups that have been using the guide hall in the past have already moved willingly to the Whalen Bay shoreline location. So in short, the Scout group still retains its capacity for scouting and good opportunities for fundraising. So for a step in the right direction towards keeping our community safer in regards to managing our asbestos, buildings containing asbestos, I support this motion to demolish the Girl Guide Hall.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against?
Madam Mayor, just to clarify, my understanding that are we discussing item 2 or are we focusing purely on item 1?
Councillor, I understand we are discussing all 3 items, and that was a question raised, but we are voting separately on each one. Okay, is there a speaker against? Councillor Barber?
It's a bit tricky because there's 3 different things, isn't there? I think I'm going to speak against, only because I think they're a fantastic organisation. Point 2. Councillor Green has outlined the risks of asbestos, but as I was driving here this afternoon, I heard somebody on ABC radio talk about their asbestos beach shack in Horrocks, and I know there's quite a few of them up there in Lancelin and Greenhead, and asbestos buildings are still around. And as I understand it, this asbestos building at the Baden-Powell Reserve has been painted with a vinyl coat to make it like doubly safe. It's not friable. And having said this, I think these Scouts understand our position, and know that eventually it will have to be demolished. But I am worried about the timing, and I think it would have been nice to give them a bit more time to get organised. There was a communication breakdown with State Scouts WA and the other groups, and I really feel for them. I feel for them in terms of their facilities. I feel for them in terms of their use of the hall that they're going to miss out on. And it does occur to me that the Scouts don't cost us any money, and the cheap rental that they accumulated from this hall and halls similar to this, that's a real asset to the community, this cheap rental. So I just hope that we take on board these things, and I would have liked the Scouts at Baden-Powell particularly to have a bit more time to get organised. In terms of point 1, I'm fully supportive of Councillor Peniatu's proposal. It's a wonderful building, that at our Scout Hall. If you've been there, it's got the most amazing floor, it's beautiful. The neighbours at Baden-Powell Reserve and Adderdale who circumnavigate these interesting reserves really love having the Scouts there. And one of the things that they like is the security. And the other thing that I'm worried about is the young Scouts, the little cubs, I'm probably calling them the wrong name. It's a wonderful area for camping. And that's what they don't have at the Geo Thompson, which is also a fabulous facility. But just being able to, the little ones to be able to camp there is so great. And for that, they need facilities like toilets. And taking away the toilets at Baden-Powell Reserve is going to add a real impost to the Scout groups. So I really hope, I think there's an amendment coming up from Councillor York, and I really hope that the city takes that on board. So that's my to and fro. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor York, this is a very good opportunity for you to move your amendment. Do you have a seconder?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Spanbrook?
Good, that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor York, proceed with your debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as I understand it, my amendment effectively just builds on Councillor Panayotu's alternate motion as an additional point 4 to be considered. And it's basically just a recognition of the Whalen Bay Scouts that operate from that facility, and that it is a significant loss that they'll suffer. You've been told that they approximately raise about $15,000 a year from leasing fees through the Scout Hall that's to be demolished. So if it is voted to be demolished. So the purpose of my point 4 is basically to recognise that and prioritise the provision of upgraded facilities, particularly the issues that the Whalen Bay Scouts have identified in regards to bathroom and storage facilities, given they are subject to quite stringent child protection requirements, and there does appear to be a requirement to store assets that aren't visible to the public, because they have had recent issues with assets being stolen. So I am in favour of the point to demolishing the Baden-Powell Girl Guide Hall, just given the risk, including the risk that under new work health safety legislation that holds senior executives of the council.
I think, Councillor York, if you just speak about your amendment, and you can debate that later. Thank you. So does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
I'll reserve my right, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone against? Okay, Councillor Wheatland, could you speak now?
Thank you. Look, I understand the intent of this amendment, but again, I just want to point out that for something that is unplanned and unbudgeted to leapfrog over other projects that are already in the process, like the Winnicott Reserve change room upgrade, like the Allen Edwards Reserve change room upgrade, the Morris Buzzercott Master Plan, Gairloch Reserve, I pulled a motion tonight that I had.
Councillor, can I just correct something you said? It's actually stating...
To prioritise the provision of upgraded facilities.
Yes, at Baden
Power Reserve as part of the Scout.
As part of the Scout and Girl Guide Facilities Review, which I don't think is actually doing that, and I understand.
Okay, so then, if I may, could I ask if we change the word prioritise to something softer? Maybe to reflect the provision of upgraded facilities as part of the Scout and Girl Guides Facilities Review, because I have grave concerns consistently that we are making decisions in this chamber for the residents and ratepayers of the broader community of this city of Melville, and it puts projects behind significantly. So you can shake your head as much as you like, but it's an actual reality. We've had change rooms that have been sitting there waiting for upgrades. So all I ask then, potentially, Councillor York, if you would consider changing prioritise to reflect, or a similar word.
Councillor York.
No, I don't accept that because it's clearly linked.
It's okay. You don't need to justify it. Just do you accept it or not? No, you don't. Okay, that is an amendment. You can move, Councillor Wheatland, once we've dealt with this amendment. Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor,
So I'm looking
have
for...
a question, if I may.
Pardon, a question? Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you. This actual amendment, it's actually to do with the facilities review. It's not actually going out to, to push
Yes,
any
I did
upgrade or
make
any
that point. Thank
costing
you.
or anything.
It's a facilities review. Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
I just want to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm looking for... Did you want to speak now, Councillor Spanbrook?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we've had a speaker for, a speaker against.
Madam Mayor,
Councillor Green.
Could I ask a question also?
Councillor Green, yes.
Yeah, my understanding of this amendment, my reading of the English before us, is that prioritisation of a provision of upgraded facilities is mentioned, but it's only mentioned as part of the Scout and Girl Guide Facilities Review. Without recalling previous information about the Scout and Girl Guides Facilities Review, I would presume that is only referring to Scout and Girl Guides facilities, which is already a review. So if we're prioritising one thing over another, it would only be things confined to...
Is that a question or a statement?
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering if perhaps the city officer can just confirm that the Scout and Girl Guides Facilities Review is only in relation to Scout and Girl Guides facilities, or is it part of a broader review where other things may be deprioritised?
Ms Pickering?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your question, Councillor Green. The Scout and Girl Guide review is specifically about the Scout and Girl Guide facilities and will include all the facilities that are provided at the sites as well as the sites themselves and the locations. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers against the amendment, only the amendment? If there's not, I'm going to ask Councillor Spanbrook to speak now. Oh, hang on. Councillor
I'm just going to speak. Yeah, thank you.
You're speaking against
I think
Councillor
I am, yes.
York. Okay.
I'm speaking against only because that we're waiting for the facilities, Girl Guide and Scout Facilities Review, which might be, I think, maybe 2 years away. Would that be correct, Madam Mayor?
Ms Pickering, would that be correct?
Thank you for your question. Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, 2027 is when that review's slated to occur, 2027-28. Thank you.
Okay, so that's at least 2 years away, and we're not really providing facilities, particularly toilet facilities, for at least 2 to 3 years, which I find questionable. And for that point, I would suggest that we defer demolition so that they can use the facilities that are currently there, maybe until the Scout and Girl Guide Facilities Review.
Can I ask a question of Ms Pickering, because this was discussed at the ABF? Has the lease been, the lease of the Scouts on the hall expired? Oh, Mr Tuffin, Director Corporate Services, thank you. I understood the lease had expired, so it's not a case of allowing the Scouts to continue leasing it. Am I correct? I understood that from the ABF.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, that is correct. There was a new lease entered into 31st of March this financial year, 2026, which excluded the Baden-Powell building from the lease area.
So my understanding is, in fact, that they would not be able to lease that building out if it remains standing. Is that correct?
As the lease currently stands, yes, that's correct.
Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Spanbrook to please speak now.
I would like to speak now if I can, thank you. I would just like to make a point that this amendment, it really is quite an innocuous amendment, because it's virtually just advising the review, when it is done in a couple of years' time, that they can prioritise the provision of upgraded facilities. So there's no leapfrogging, there's no actual jumping, above other projects or anything like that, because it is a couple of years away. So it's just a matter of for these officers to actually consider it and have a look at it with the actual facilities that they've currently got, because they do need some bathroom and storage facilities. So instead of considering other facilities that perhaps, that they don't need to, that it's not as significant, but the bathroom and storage facilities are. So it's just a review, that's all it is. It is quite harmless, and it is just an amendment for the actual review itself. So I just don't see any harm in this amendment being supported. Thank you.
Councillor York, can you please wrap up the debate?
Yep, so those words were specifically there. It's not displacing any other project. It's simply putting it front of mind, and that there'd have to be good reasons in that review as to not upgrading those bathroom storage facilities. And it's my understanding that that facility will be locked, and there won't be any even if that building wasn't demolished, there's no ability to access it or its toilet facilities. And in my discussions with Director Coden, there is the possibility of utilising the sewerage pipes that will be left behind for the installation of a temporary toilet in the immediate future. So, yeah, nothing more to add. Thanks.
Thank you. We're now going to the vote on the amendment only. Okay, so you have the amendment before you. And green is supporting the amendment, and red is you do not support the amendment. That is carried 10-2. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment, please.
Yes, Councillor Robbins, what is your amendment?
Thank you. My amendment is that we replace point 2 with the following wording. And I've just sent that through to the governance team, if that helps. Does not approve the demolition of the Baden-Powell Girl Guide Hall at this time, and instead directs the CEO to reallocate the money that would be spent on demolition to address the facility's greatest asbestos risks, for example, the electrical mounting board cabinet.
All right, you have the amendment in front of you. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Robbins? Councillor Barber. Councillor Robbins, please open your debate. We need to assess whether that is a significant amendment, because it's completely changing item 2 to something quite different. So the officers are just checking. Thank you, Councillor Robbins.
Madam Mayor,
Councillor Woodall.
if I could, given it's almost the complete opposite of the officer recommendation, I recall when I had a similar issue, it was not allowed, so I would expect the same interpretation to be applied.
I would imagine that will be the case.
Thanks, Councillor Woodall, for those helpful comments.
You can foreshadow to move it after the officer's recommendation, if we get to that point, of course.
Fabulous, thank you. I'll foreshadow that I'll move this as an alternate motion in the event that the officer's recommendation is lost. And if I can just ask a question as well. If part 2, when we vote on part 2, is lost, what is the process then? Because the officers, I assume, would need some advice on what council wants done with the Girl Guide Hall. So if some of it's successful and some isn't, then would we move to the alternate?
Ms Newman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. A little bit complicated, but I would suggest that if part 2 is lost of Councillor Panayiotu's motion, we would look at, which is the same as the officer recommendation, your foreshadowed new point 2 could be considered. We probably need to take some advice from the Director of Environment and Infrastructure in relation to whether that work that you're proposing is actually viable. Thank you.
All right, so we'll continue on with Councillor Panayiotu's item. Now, we have had a speaker against. Are there, how many other speakers against are there, just so I can get an idea of how the debate's going to go? All right, okay. Well, since there doesn't appear to be any further against, I'm going to ask Councillor Panayiotu to wrap up the debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ultimately, this is about taking a practical and evidence-based approach with this motion, and it seeks to assess whether a value community facility can be retained through roof replacement and remediation options already identified within the existing engineering reports. It also seeks to ensure council properly assesses the roof replacement and retention pathways identified in those reports. So it's also looking at the funding that's proposed for the demolition and put that towards the roof replacement options. So I therefore commend that the motion to council.
Thank you, Councillor Panayiotu. So we're now voting on the alternative motion of Councillor Panayiotu. We're going to, I'm going to suggest 4 votes because we now have a 4th item, which we didn't have before. So item 1, we're going to vote on. So the item 1 is there on the screen. So if you support this item 1, please vote green. If you do not, vote red. Carried 11-1. We're moving on to item 2. We'll wait for it to come on the screen. Okay, item 2, approve the demolition of the Baden-Powell Girl Guide Hall. Vote green if you support, vote red if you do not.
Madam Mayor, can I just have a clarification about what the 4th vote you were referring to is for?
We'll do that when the time comes. Okay, thank you.
That's not in relation to a toilet?
Can we just finish off the vote, please? That is carried 9-3. Okay, just clarity for Councillor Green. We have the item 3, request the CEO to continue working with user groups regarding suitable alternative accommodation. And item 4 is Councillor York's amendment. So we'll keep them separate because there may be some differing opinions. So item 3.
Sorry to be a pain here, but isn't there a procedural thing here where we've had an amended motion and then that would become the substantive motion? I'm just a bit confused about what the in relation to that amendment, what is now the substantive motion for that?
It is the substantive motion. That's item 4 is the substantive motion.
Okay, so all four
of it's been
items are part
included.
of the substantive motion,
Yes,
and we're
yeah.
voting on them separately?
Absolutely, and
Okay.
it becomes challenging to put 3 and 4 together if you read them. So it might just be better to have them 3 and 4 and vote on them separately.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wheatland, you had a question?
Yeah, just about governance. I mean, now that we've just supported to demolish the Baden-Powell Reserve, would 4.4 fall away? Or is that, how does that fit in? Okay, upgraded.
Yeah,
Yep,
no,
yep.
it doesn't
Even
fall
more
away.
important.
No. Okay, so item 3, so can I have vote green if you approve of item 3, which is on the screen, red if you don't. Is there any voice to the contrary? Let me ask, is there anyone against item 3? If there is no one against, I declare it carried. Item 4, let's go to vote on item 4. So that is the amendment that we've all agreed, well, we had approved. So vote. Okay, we're on to point 4. We've now got a new voting screen up. So green if you support this item 4, red if you do not. That is carried 10-2. Thank you very much for your debate. We're now moving on to the motion with notice. Item 15.1, notice of motion, John Connell Reserve, transplanting trees. This motion is proposed by Councillor Green. Councillor, do you wish to proceed with this motion?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the motion before us. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Oh, and we do have a mover, Councillor Green. We need a seconder. Councillor Panayiotou. Thank you, Councillor Green. Please open the debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, to some extent, this was a joint motion between myself and Councillor Panayiotou. You might recall from the previous meeting of council that there was some discussion about bringing a motion regarding transplanting of trees. So it was a long night last time and a long time to get to the resolution that we did. So this is in some ways an extension of that. I'll go into what I was going to say. The John Connell Reserve extension has been a contentious issue, and there unfortunately has been a lot of misinformation spread around the community. Our vote last month was not just for cricket, it was certainly not for half a cricket pitch. It provides for 1 additional cricket ground, a whole one, 2 additional soccer pitches, new lighting for both new and existing grounds, and the planting of 17,500 trees. At a minimum, this is more than 80 for every tree cleared. And that's a minimum. As such, the point of mentioning that is that what we have before us is actually a big opportunity to do something real for our environment and our tree canopy. This motion aims to ensure that we make the most of that opportunity, get maximum bang for our buck in this regard, but we do that within the budget set. There are also legitimate concerns raised by the community that this motion seeks to acknowledge and address. The 2 that this motion seeks to acknowledge and address are The first is the clearing of bushland, which should now be minimised where possible. The second is the risk of low survival rates for replanting of trees at Kenhurst Park, with an associated risk of cost overruns if the conditions stipulated by DWER's clearing permit can't be met within the $1.3 million budget. I see this as the key risk of this project, and one of the aims of this motion is to address that. Back to transplanting. Transplanting is an obvious way to reduce the impact of tree clearing. This was suggested by Councillor Panayiotou at the April OMC, and we're putting it forward now. Last month's decision has given us a big opportunity to work together and do something great for John Connell Reserve. It's also an opportunity for the broader community, other groups out there, not just the clubs, but environmental groups and other stakeholders to come down, join in, get their hands dirty and provide help to deliver a real outcome for the environment. Over the past week or so, I've sought pledges from the local clubs, and they have pledged their support to get involved with the transplanting effort. Yeah, I'm certainly hoping that other groups will do the same as we move forward on this project. The motion has also incorporated the feedback from the CEO and also other elected members from the elected members engagement session that we had on the 28th of April. So I'm hoping everyone's read the reasons for the motion, but I'll try and go through those for the record now anyway. We're saving the trees to be cleared where possible by transplanting in nearby locations, involving the relevant stakeholders in the process where possible, to deliver the best possible environmental outcome for John Connell Reserve. We are maximising the $1.3 million opportunity to increase tree canopy and wildlife habitat, including black cockatoo habitat, in our city. With over 80 trees to be planted for every tree cleared, this will be a significant net positive in the long term, and we should aim to make it the best possible. Point number 3, certainly last but not least, we start preparations now to address the risk of a low tree planting survival rate. When someone like as qualified and as experienced as Eddie Wyon comes and tells us that there is a concern about the survival rate, then we must listen to that. So this aspect of the motion looks at addressing that by making some investigations into other areas that may be suitable for planting that may have a higher success rate. I'll finish by saying this motion does not seek an immediate amendment to the clearing permit, a variation to the clearing permit, as officers have advised that this would cause delays. Instead, it calls for preparatory work in this regard to seek alternative solutions if required. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Councillor Panayiotou, do you wish to speak now or later? Thank you.
You speak later if you like.
Speak later. Is there anyone against?
I've got a question, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Wheatland.
Wheatland, thank you. I am a member of the Walga Environment Policy Team, and yesterday we were discussing the national, what's it called? The national, there's a decision, consultation out right now on the National Environmental Offset Standard, a standard for environmental offsets. And there's also another one around the National Environment Standard for matters of national environmental significance. And I asked the question around Kenhurst, or around offsets and what they are, and then I gave the example of our recent decision to approve the clearing permit and the offset provisions that were in the advice from DWER. And the answer I got, and I just want to clarify this maybe through the CEO or Director Coton, is that Kenhurst Park was set up as Bush Forever, and Bush Forever is created to provide an offset. So my question is, how can the clearing permit state, or who decided what the offset was, A, at Kenhurst, and B, how can an offset be asked to be another offset? Can it be a double offset? So the advice I got from the Walga Environment Policy Team, the Secretariat, said that that's conflicting. So I just want to clarify that, please.
Mr Coton.
Through you, Madam Mayor, in relation to who made the decision, that was DWER. They've got criteria that they use to assess offset areas, and they look at areas that need improvement as well and rehabilitation. So I guess in response to the comment about the answer the Walga staff gave, I'm not aware of that answer, so I can't really comment on it, but yeah, I hope that's answered it as best I can.
Thank you. Is there a speaker against? Councillor Woodall, is that a question?
Question, Madam Mayor?
Question, yeah.
Just in terms of any cost of transplanting trees, would that come back in the report to council, and would that be included within the existing budget that's been proposed for the clearing and the second oval and the revegetation, or would it be in addition to that?
Director Coton, Environment Infrastructure.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, those costs would come back to council in a report, and they would be an additional cost on top of the costs that have been approved in terms of any transplanting.
Thank you. Is that a question? Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Director Coton, I'm not sure if the feedback came from you, Mr Coton, or may have been actually Mr Bird, with regard to the offset area that was chosen. And please correct me otherwise. I believe it was due to similar vegetation in Kenhurst Park as it is in the area that's going to be cleared. And however, also with regard to the clearing permit, that it does state there that they are anticipating like an increase in carnaby cockatoo habitats within Kenhurst Park, and that was part of the reason for that offset being chosen. Is that something, if you recall speaking to me about, or maybe it may have been Mr Bird? Thank you.
Director Coton.
I don't recall speaking to you about that, but that, I mean, it does appear logical. I wouldn't have any reason to disagree with that advice.
All right. Councillor Robbins, is that a question or are you speaking?
Yes, two questions, please.
Two questions, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. My first question is why there was no officer advice note provided on this motion, and perhaps more broadly, how officers determine whether or not an advice note will be provided?
Director Coton.
Yes, in relation to the first point in terms of the looking for opportunities to transplant trees, so that would be something that staff would do anyway as part of the clearing, so there's not actually any extra work involved in investigating that. Any future costs, and we don't know what they are, so it's difficult to put an estimate on it, but any future costs associated with that would come back to council in a report. So there's no, staff don't consider that there's anything particularly out of the ordinary in relation to this notice of motion, in that a lot of the evaluation is stuff that would be sort of done as normal anyway, and any decision on future costs or any cost increases would be a decision of council through the report.
Thank you, Director Coton.
Madam
Did you
Mayor,
have a second question?
Well, my second part of the question maybe for the governance team is generally what's the framework for deciding whether an advice note will be provided? From what Mr Coton said, the answer appeared to be that a lack of advice note implies that the officers are happy with the motion and there's no significant issues for them to raise, but just if I can have some confirmation of that.
Ms Newman, Head of Governance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, generally that would be correct. Usually where elected members work with officers around motions or particular amendments, if the officers feel that it's something that they would do as part of their normal work, or there may be no real concerns until the report is established, an advice note is generally not provided. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And my other question?
Okay, what is your other question?
Thank you. So it's just some clarification around the council's role in approving the additional cost that would be associated with this motion. So just seeking confirmation that the cost of this would come back to council as a future standalone item on our agenda, or whether it would just be, if we approve this, then it just goes into the budget for the 26-27 financial year.
Ms Bowman, CEO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Yes, so that is specifically asking for a report to come to a future council meeting. So it will be a standalone report coming to council. It may include other information in the report, but it wouldn't just be included in the normal budget papers as part of the annual business planning process. Mr Coaten may add to that, but I also just want to clarify that an officer advice note will be prepared when it is not probably going in accordance with an officer recommendation from a professional advice perspective to outline any legal, financial, other implications, including any resource implications where officers may need to spend resources and time to actually write the report that has to come back to council. So we will provide advice to council about a number of different risks or implications in an advice note, if there are any in relation to a particular motion. But Mr Coaten, did you wish to add anything to that? Thank you. No, thank you.
Councillor Spanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to check with Councillor Green, because I think it may be worthwhile, point 3, instead of having it come back to a future meeting of council, to come back to a future elected member engagement session, because then we can the councillors can have further discussions.
Can we just ask if he's happy to include that in the motion?
Is he willing to actually make that alteration or that amendment to come back to an EMIS instead of to an actual council meeting?
Or both. Councillor Green.
That was somewhat on advice from city officers to put that line in there. So I think, I mean, I'd be open to either, to be honest, but.
I guess the question is, would it come back to an EMIS? Would an officer be able to assist us with that?
Yes, coming back to an EMES would be fine from a staff perspective.
Okay, Director Coaten has assured us that it will come back to an EMIS first before council. Councillor Whitland.
Hi, sorry, I just want to clarify something about the officer advice note, and something that the CEO said in relation to it would rely on professional advice given by the officers. And I don't want to go back into time, but some decisions that have been brought forward as an officer recommendation have been a broader, which option do the councillors prefer, 1, 2, 3 or 4, rather than relying on professional officer advice to make an assessment and then it come to council. So how does that differentiate? And it's something actually that I've struggled with for a while, so I apologise, but I really want to understand how what you just said relates to
Councillor, I think that this is starting to sound like a discussion we need to have at one of our elected members' forums.
Well, so hang on,
because it seems to be a bit of a theme tonight.
Well, no, if I may, I have raised this in EMESs before, and it's about a matter of transparency in our decision making. So I'll just leave it there. Thanks.
Okay, have we finished with questions? Councillor Barber.
I've got a question, and that is just on that one about cost, and hopefully in the officer report, I'd really like us to maybe push back on the state government, and if they see that we are trying to be responsible in this tree planting exercise, surely they might be able to assist in reducing the 1 mil that they're charging us, and maybe offer some funds that way. So maybe in the officer report, I'd love them to do that. But my real question is that I quite like this, but what I would like to do is just maybe go one bit further, because I I like the idea of tree planting and trying to save as many trees as we can. What I am concerned about is the areas around John Connell Reserve that we're looking at transplanting them. I think that we need to be mindful of threatened ecological species. Dr. Eddie Way, when he was here, talked about the spider orchids, for example.
Sorry, is that a question or is that a statement?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I think we should be mindful of things like the spider orchids and other threatened ecological species, which is why I would like to ask Councillor Green if he'd consider adding a slight amendment to point 1, which would be words to the effect, oh, there they are, and being mindful to protect threatened ecological species such as spider orchids. You can take spider orchids out if you like, but just I'm sure that if we spoke to relevant stakeholders, they might take that into consideration, but I think that would be a good thing if we just had it in the in the motion. What do you think, Councillor Green?
Councillor Green, would you be prepared to accept that?
I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt, but I can just say that there'd be many other things that we'd need to put in there as well. I think, personally, I think the wording as it is it's a given that things like that will be considered. We've said consult with relevant stakeholders, so and there's a process that will be followed where we do ask any interested parties about, what their concerns are.
Okay, I'll take it that's a no. Councillor Barber, you can actually move an amendment if you so wish.
Well, I'd like to move an amendment, Madam Mayor, and just see the feeling of the council.
Okay, do you have a seconder? I think it lapses through lack of a seconder. No, there is a seconder. Councillor Wheatland. All right, thank you. Let's put that on the screen. Yes, there it is. All right, so Councillor Barber, you've spoken quite a bit about it. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't have anything else to add. I'm happy to go to a vote, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Wheatland, do you wish to speak now or later? Somehow I've lost my... Mr Yilditz needs to clarify something. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Barber, just confirming, did you wish to seek to continue with the words such as spider orchids, or was you comfortable to have that taken out?
You reckon take it out? Oh, I like the spider orchids, but if it would help, you can take it out.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a mover and seconder. Now, does anybody wish to speak against it? Okay, so Councillor Spanbrook, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand the intent of Councillor Barber, but I just don't think it's really necessary at all. I think that when you're actually engaging with the relevant stakeholders, they're very familiar with the area, they're familiar with the demands of the area, and they're also very familiar with the ecology of the area. So I do believe that that would already be included. So to actually put this in specifically could very well complicate things unnecessarily. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so any further speakers against? Just need to get an idea. Okay, well, we're going back to Councillor Wheatland. Do you wish to speak? Councillor Barber, do you wish to wrap up the debate?
I think the council know where I'm coming from, so I'm happy to go to a vote, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We're going to the vote then on the amendment only and being mindful to protect threatened ecological species. Green is agreeing with the amendment, and red is not. That is carried 7-5. Thank you. So that amendment is now included in the substantive motion. Okay, so do we have any speakers against this substantive motion? There is. Okay. So, Councillor Woodall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And look, I do wish to thank Councillor Green for actually bringing this motion, because I think it does raise an important issue. and I think there is certainly some merit in considering what can be done regarding transplanting and looking at what can be preserved there. My main concern is around the DEWA conditions with the offset. I don't believe that this motion will allow us to change those conditions or to have this incorporated in some form into the offset conditions. I think they're very separate processes, and for me, I guess if this transplanting and additional replanting elsewhere will come at an additional cost. We've already approved a very significant budget for this project, inclusive of the offset. To then put this on top of it, I think, is adding another layer. And based on conversations I've had previously around transplanting of trees, it certainly isn't cheap. It's quite expensive and intensive. And so I think it's a well-intentioned motion, but I'm concerned if it's going to come back as an additional budget, that will be another cost that gets effectively paid for by ratepayers, and without having any impact on our DEWA conditions. So I think going beyond what's required in the offset permit is not something that we should be doing. We should do what's proposed in the permit, and if there is an opportunity with DEWA to look at changing the conditions or an opportunity to alter the conditions to include something like this, then that would be great. But based on the current approval and where we currently sit, it doesn't appear that that is the case, and therefore I'm concerned that we'll be effectively having a report commissioned that will outline additional costs, and I don't think it's a very effective use of officer time. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woodall. Councillor Panayotou, do you wish to speak at this point?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe this is a practical and sensible approach to help minimise the current environmental impacts associated with the proposed work for John Connell Reserve. Importantly, this motion does not seek to delay the current approval process. It simply asks the city to investigate the opportunities to transplant viable vegetation where practical and identify suitable vegetation areas. I've personally walked through this area. I've spent quite a number of days or hours, and there are on multiple occasions to get a better understanding of the vegetation impacts. There's previous office advice that they will investigate for suitable transplant and relocation opportunity, as Councillor Green already stated earlier. And I think this is reasonable that we continue to investigate this further, including other suitable plants and best long-term revegetation outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Panayotou. Okay, with the lack of speakers against, I will go to Councillor Green to wrap up the debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start by just saying that really, as it stands at the moment, if we don't vote to transplant any of these trees, then we won't be saving any of those trees that could be saved. So I hope elected members can keep that in mind when they're putting their vote through. The other thing is this motion does not incur any costs regarding transplanting. It's really just to identify sites. I'll point out also that the pledges, certainly from Cricket, have indicated, I won't say promised, but they've indicated that they'll make a financial contribution to this transplanting effort, and the intention there was to certainly have city involvement for it, but to be in a large way community-led, being mindful of threatened ecological species. But I don't think the areas that are being considered at this stage are going anywhere near that undisputed threatened ecological community to the south, where the orchids are, as I understand. And lastly, a large part of my motivation for bringing this motion was to do what we can to hold ourselves to that $1.3 million. And when we get to the stage where we have an officer recommendation regarding what we do about this and what the costs are, it would certainly be my intention that we stick to that 1.3 and not go over on account of any additional transplanting costs. So if you can take my word for it on that one, that would be appreciated. But this will save trees from transplanting. I'm sure there will be some success with transplanting some of those trees coming out of the cleared area. And that's probably the main one that I would finish off with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. If you support the motion as put forward by Councillor Green, please vote green. If you are against, vote red. That is carried 11-1. Thank you very much for your debate. We'll now return to the agenda, the reports. So item 14, reports. We're going to item C, 26379. Statement of financial activity for March. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor McGoldrick. Seconded, Councillor Lim. Is there anyone against? If there is no one against, I declare it carried. We're moving on to item C, 26380, Alternative Revenue Plan. Can I please have a mover and seconder? Councillor Robbins, seconded Councillor Lim. Is there anyone against? If there is no one against, I declare it carried. Oh, you're against it. Councillor Green, do you want us to stop on that item, Alternative Revenue Plan?
I'll withdraw that, Madam Mayor. My apologies.
Okay. Is there anyone against? If there is no one against, I declare it carried. Moving on to CD 2664, Leeming Recreation Centre, pre-feasibility study. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor McGoldrick, seconded Councillor Spanbrook. Is there anyone against? If there's no one against, I declare it carried. Item E 26100, Asset Management Plan, Strategy. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor McGoldrick, seconded Councillor Lim. Is there anyone against? If there is no one against, I declare it carried. Yep. E26101, Deferral of Findings from Burke Drive Traffic Study Report. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Barber moved. Councillor Panayiotou seconded. Is there anyone against? Councillor Barber.
Not really against, because I moved it, but I did want to just say I wanted to thank the officers, because due to my questioning at the ABF...
Sorry, Councillor, you're voting against it.
I'm not voting against, I'm just asking a question.
You're asking a question. Okay, thank you.
I'm not really asking a question.
Sounds like a debate.
No. Yeah, no, I'm just, no, what I'm doing is...
Would you like to speak on it?
Could I, just for a minute?
Yes.
I just wanted to thank the officers, because after the agenda briefing forum, I did question whether 2 weeks was long enough for community engagement, and I'm very pleased to get an email from the director today saying it's 3 weeks. So that's all I wanted to say, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the director and the officers. And this is a pretty important thing, and I think it's going to be quite polarising. But the whole of Perth come to along Burke Drive, so we need as much engagement as possible. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barber. Councillor Panayiotou, do you have anything to say on this item? Okay, is there anyone against? If there is no one against, I declare it carried. Moving on to the next item, which is UP 26103, Draft Local Planning Policy 1.23, Requirements for Local Planning Scheme Amendments. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor McGoldrick, seconded Councillor Hong. Is there anyone against? If there is no one against, I declare it carried. We now have reached the end of the report. I also, with motions with notice, item 15, I need to mention that I advise that Councillor Wheatland has withdrawn 5.2 notice of motion Marmion Reserve. Item 16, motions without previous notice. There are no motions without previous notice for this meeting. Item 17.
Have we done the Leeming Rec Centre yet?
Yes, everything's done.
Oh, was that on block, was it?
No, it was
Oh,
unanimous.
In the bathroom. Oh, well done, everyone.
Yep, unanimous. It all went through very quickly. Yes, yes. You're not really supposed to leave the debate when you second something. But just a bit of advice. You did, but then you left. Yes, you're not really supposed to leave when you... Yeah, that's all right, Councillor Spanbrook, no need for excuses.
And just the Melville City Structure Plan, we did that. Was that on block, was it? Wow.
Everything's done. Item 16, motions without previous notice. There are none. Item 17, matters for which the meeting was closed to the public. There were nil. There were no decisions made while the meeting was closed to the public, and I now declare, there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at 8:08 p.m. Congratulations, well done. Please hold your comments until the live streaming is closed.